Welcome back to Houston. We're on Radio Row for the men's Final Four, but we can't come to Houston, Perloff, and not talk a little college football. And for that, we welcome in the head coach of the Houston Cougars, Geno Holgorsen. Thanks so much for doing this today. We know this is a busy time of year for you.
Yeah, I got practice in like 3 hours. I actually do. I'm leaving here and I'm going straight to practice. But, it's spring practice, which, we're doing our due diligence and getting our work done. But when you got the Final Four here, you need to kind of branch out and be seen.
Do you want to, pick the brain of any coaches around here? Because there's, legendary basketball coaches at every corner.
I'm used to legendary basketball coaches. When I was at Texas Tech, Bob Knight was the guy. When I was at Oklahoma State, Sean Sutton was the guy, but Coach Sutton was around. West Virginia, kind of the GOAT. Bob Huggins, a good friend of mine. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to hang out with them here for the next couple of days.
Yeah.
And then at the University of Houston, we got Kelvin Sampson, who's a Hall of Famer as well. So I think there's a trend here. I think I'm okay with being second fiddle to these basketball coaches. Big fan of these basketball guys in the sport and March Madness as well.
So, by the way, Huggins yelled at Maggie and I last time he was on, which is not. He is so sarcastic. I'm not going to get into that. So, University of Houston football, it feels like, I know basketball is where it's at right now, very, very successful. Feels like you're sitting on a real, potentially big-time program going into the Big 12. I feel like this could be, you were at Houston earlier, this could be a real sort of glory days for Houston football.
Well, everything goes back to 30 years ago. When the Big 12 was formed, Houston got left out.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that. I mean, it's called Phi Slamma Jamma. It's Andre Ware, Heisman Trophy, David Klingler, really good football. Carl Lewis in track. They were a problem.
Wait, so people didn't want to play them, you're saying?
Yeah, those people were Texas and Texas A&M. Let's just call it like it is, right? So Houston got left out, and 15 years of silence. I mean, this university for the better part of about 2 decades kind of went into, I would say, kind of depression zone. I came here in 2008, 2009. When Kevin Sumlin got the head coaching job here, Renew Couture was hired in 2008. Mack Rhodes was hired in 2008. The university started changing. And 15 years later, here's where we're at. And so, Texas and Texas A&M are going to the SEC, and so the Big 12 needs Houston. And we're excited to fill that void, and it's going to be good for our university. It's going to be good for the city. It's going to be good for everybody involved.
In some ways, Geno Holgorsen is our guest here on Radio Row, the University of Houston football coach. You might be the perfect guy to usher Houston into the Big 12, considering how much experience you have coaching in that league.
I don't know if that's going to do any good or not. It's still
can't hurt, right?
It can't hurt. I think navigating what it needs to look like is going to be beneficial. As Texas Tech for 8 years, as Oklahoma State 1 year, West Virginia 7 of my 8 years were in the Big 12. So I know what it needs to look like. I know it needs to happen behind the scenes. That doesn't help us when we're going toe to toe against TCU game 1.
Yeah.
Or game 3, which is our first game in the Big 12. The experience doesn't count. Okay. So, but what it needs to look like and what we need to do and what the roster needs to look like, what the support staff needs to look like, what all that other stuff needs to look like. I got some experience when it comes to that. And we've been navigating that for the better part of 15 months. When it was announced, a year and a half ago, I'm like, okay, y'all want this, right? Yeah, okay, so here's what we need to do. And so we've been doing those behind-the-scenes things for a year and a half as Coach Sampson and, Coach Whitting in baseball and Chris Pesman understands, and Tillman obviously understands and knows what it needs to look like. And, Renew's the one that's she's steering this ship, and she asks for advice and we give it to her. But, when it comes to, lining up, competing against TCU and Texas and Baylor and Texas Tech, there ain't no advantages there. I can assure you.
Coach, can you tell people who might not know much about Clayton Tune, your former quarterback who now is a draft prospect? There's some buzz around him. He kind of maybe not had the year that he expected. But what do you think NFL teams are going to see in Clayton Tune?
I would disagree with that statement. Yeah. I mean, he threw for 4,000 yards and like 40 touchdowns and just a few interceptions. Yeah. He had a spectacular year. I mean, everybody's disappointed that we're 8-5. Everybody's disappointed that Houston basketball team's not in the Final Four. I mean, it's a competitive environment, right? So, the ball didn't bounce our way this year. We won some really, really good games. We had like a last drive win against UTSA, a last drive win against Memphis. I mean, a last drive, to win the bowl game against Louisiana. I mean, Clayton Tune had a spectacular year, and just keeps getting better when it comes to this whole quarterback football thing. He's an amazing young man. Yeah. I hope he's moved out of my house by now. He's not been staying there for the last 2 weeks, But I would put him with my kids and say, raise him. Him and my son are like best friends, and so I've been on vacation with Clayton Tune, and he's an amazing young man. He's a guy that you want your daughter to marry.
When you're a coach who has an NFL prospect, like especially a quarterback, do you get a lot of calls from NFL teams?
A little bit here and there, It's like when I'm game planning for an opponent, I really don't call people to give me advice on, because you just watch the video. Yeah. Like, we're all professionals here, so you watch the video and you meet with them and you get to know them and you figure it out. So, when it comes to you come watch practice, you go to the Senior Bowl, you go to the Combine, you come to the Pro Day, you bring them on visits. I mean, what they don't need my advice. They know they know everything. But I'm hoping he's a day 2 guy. Tank Dell, the receiver, is a special young man. Great story. Hoping he's a day 2 guy. I think they got a chance to play for a long time.
Dana Holgorsen is our guest here on Radio Row, University of Houston Cougars football coach, one of your former quarterbacks, as long we're going down memory lane a little bit, at West Virginia, Geno Smith. How about Geno? Comeback Player of the Year, just signed a $40 million guaranteed contract. What does that mean to you?
They wrote him off and he didn't write back.
And now he's got that trademarked. You just owe him $5.
Well,
you can owe it to him.
He can send me a bill. Yeah. So proud of him. I watched that first game when he said that.
Yeah, against the Broncos.
I was actually on my back porch and I was watching the game and I was so excited for him. And he said that and I'm like, wow. And so I texted him immediately. I'm like, bro, that's special. He's just he's a gym rat, man. I mean, it's all he's ever known. He's not a coach's kid, but he should be a coach's kid because it's all he knows, and it's just failure is no option. It's like, I'm gonna do this forever. And he told me that forever and ever. He's like, I was in the green room with him when he got mad because he didn't get drafted in the first round, just mad, stormed out, calm down, go back the next day. He went back the next day. Got drafted, number 1 in the second round, which is pretty awesome. Just hung in there, and evidently, Pete Carroll believes in him. They did what they did with Russell Wilson, I think, because they believed in Geno Smith.
How about that?
And so, good for him. I'm so happy for him, and he's getting his due, and that's awesome.
All right, when you play Texas this year, is it going to be Arch Manning or Quinn Ewers under center? Everyone, that seems to be one of the big college football stories of the offseason.
Doesn't matter.
You tell us.
I'm assuming they're both pretty good.
Yeah, I was about to ask. Yeah,
I'm assuming they're both.
Did you check in on Arch?
No.
You might see a lot of Arch.
He was a hard one to recruit. Our bank account wasn't that big, so I don't know. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about everybody else around him. They got really, really good players around them.
As you mentioned, you start with TCU, so you have
plenty on your plate. I'm worried about UTSA.
Yes.
I mean, they were 24-4 in the last 2 years, and they
got a good program.
They come here game 1, and they're taking our place in the Americans, so they're on the up and up, and they're well coached, and they got Frank Harris back, at quarterback, who's I think going into his 8th year or whatever. But they're a good team and a good program. We got our hands full with them, and then we got to go play Rice, which is like Houston. I mean, it's like it's a Houston
right here,
thing.
yeah.
It's a Houston thing. So our schedule's tough, and so whether it's UTSA or Texas or TCU or whatever, I mean, every game's gonna be hard.
I mean, Texas. How many good programs are there now? It's tough.
Yeah, and we got to go to Lubbock again.
Yeah.
We should have won there last year. That daggum quarterback converted 4th and 20 to win. Well, he's our quarterback now.
Right. Nice job. How much are you recruiting the transfer portal versus high schools?
It's about half and half. There's a lot of good high school players here, and high school kids are not getting the opportunities that they've had in years past. So there's better high school kids available. And so I don't want to lose sight of the fact that we need to recruit the state, and we need to recruit, good high school players and bring them into the program and develop them the right way. But 50% of it's free agency.
Interesting.
I've got probably 10 spots available. I was at dinner last night before I went to the Post Oak and bumped into you guys. I was at a recruiting dinner, with a O-lineman from Jersey, so.
That's my neck of the woods.
Yeah, I know. So hopefully we get them. But I'm going to do that every other night here for the next 6 weeks.
Wow.
To try to figure out what my team looks like June 1.
All right, off air after the interview, I know you have to go. Tell us one embarrassing Case Keenum story. There's got to be something, right?
No, Case is perfect. He's the golden child.
He is.
An embarrassing Cliff Kingsbury story. We might have a better shot at.
That's better. Yeah.
I got stories on both of them. This one involves both of them. Okay, so my first year here in 2008, I was offense coordinator. The Hurricane Harvey blew through, and we're supposed to play Air Force Game 3. Okay, so Game 1 we beat is like Grambling or one of those FCS schools. Game 2 we go to Oklahoma State, and they're good. They're top 10, and we're winning at halftime, and we lose by a touchdown. But it's a close game, so we can't wait to play the next game. All right, we got a shot. And so we're playing Air Force in Houston, and the Hurricanes coming. So we move the game to Dallas because we want to play, and they want to play. Well, the Hurricane comes through Houston and is going straight up 45 into Dallas. And so we move the game up from 2 o'clock to 10 to try to get the game over with. Well, we're playing Air Force, okay? And so 5 a.m., we're at the stadium, trying to play this game at 9 a.m. So we ended up kicking off at 10 a.m. Well, our whole team is watching their city get ripped apart by a hurricane, and we're playing in the hurricane at 10 a.m. And so it's a nightmare. I mean, and so conditions are terrible, and we're not playing very good, and Case ain't playing very good. So at one point in the third quarter, I go, you know what? Obviously, these plays that I'm calling aren't working. So how about you call it? You're so damn smart. You call it. And so I just took my headphones off and I pouted and I was like, Case, you call it. He goes, all right. So he went out. And so I kind of put my headphones on. And Cliff goes, Dana. He goes, that's the dumbest thing you've ever done. I'm like, well, watch this. And I watch Case marches all the way down the field and scores. So I go, see?
You know what? That sounds like a Mike Leach move. And I know that you obviously came from the late coach's coaching tree.
Yeah, it was a tough time in December. I went to the memorial. We're actually in Shreveport getting ready to play the bowl game. And so I flew over for the day. I skipped practice on a Wednesday afternoon practice. I skipped practice to go over. It was pretty special now. I mean, just the amount of people that were there paying respects to Coach Leach. He really didn't realize it. He probably affected football more than maybe any human being ever. Now, I think kind of the air raid kind of passed away when he passed away. And the air raid was good to me for 20 years. I'm sitting here talking to y'all because of the air raid. The amount of people that were there and what they said about him, he affected the game of football probably as much as anybody that's ever lived.
Pioneer lost a
no
big
doubt.
figure. Coach, thank you so much for the
Awesome.
time today. And good luck. I hope to talk to you during the season.
All good. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Dana
You got it. Thank
Holgorsen.
y'all.